Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this week's version of Mark and Mark. I'm Mark Weiss with my partner, Mark Littell, a.k.a. Country, and we got ourselves a super guest today. We got Mr. UL Washington, who not only was a teammate of Mark's with the Royals, but he actually got to play on a pennant winner, which I know I didn't. So, Country, why don't you introduce your buddy?
Well, UL is a great guy to know. I'm going to tell you that right now. He's down to earth. He's quiet, but when he speaks, you better listen because he knows what he's talking about. He's been a hitting coach, not only a player, but he's been a hitting coach, and he knows what he's talking about. He's been in the business over 40 years as a player and a coach, and he was with the Royals, and a lot of his time was spent there. Then he went over to Montreal and played, and then Pittsburgh, and then he made the rounds as a coach with, until they, dislike you. Then they say, see you later, So something goes anywhere because I've been in the same position. But UL is just I'm blessed to know UL Washington because he is a very humble person. And he's got a beautiful family, and if he puts his family ahead of anything, and that he's a genuine guy. But we're so glad to have you on today and appreciate it.
Well, I feel so, blessed to all those compliments, Mark. Just like you said, we got together I watched you come up through the league as I was, and then the big leagues as I was coming up through the minor league system, and I think we got a chance the last month of '77. And you're my kind of guy. You're straight to the point. You're easy to get along with. You're kind of rough. You tend to beat on people when you're talking to them, but that's what you are. so we're a lot alike, and that's probably the only reason I'm doing this interview is because of you and our friendship.
Well, I'm fortunate that you're on UL. But I tell you, folks, one thing about UL, he's a redneck too. He's like me. He's from Oklahoma out there, and he knows what country living's all about, and that's a good thing. So UL and I got along. We hit it off real well, and we were lucky enough to play to coach together actually one year with the Dodgers. We're going to end up talking about that later, but. You came over, if I'm not mistaken, when the academy was formed. Was that in '71? Am I right? Am I right there? When you came into the system?
I came into the system in '72. I went to
just 70
on the bus.
Okay.
Yeah, just on the bus. Rode 10 hours to Kansas City, where my brother was, and he's the one who got me up there. James, he's passed away now, but he got me on the bus and got me up there and at the old ballpark and to the track.
Yeah, I remember that old ballpark. I know George Toma.
Was that old KC Municipal Stadium?
Yes, I don't remember the name of it, but it was like a living room with carpet, crushed carpet in it. Coming from Stringtown, Oklahoma.
Well, the reason says that is because we had the best grounds crew guys, George Toma, and he was a master. Yeah, George Toma. That's why it was like a carpet. He didn't want anybody walking on that field hardly.
Well, you said strange walking on it. It was so nice. It was like nothing I'd ever seen at that time.
Yep. Well, you all. I know you had a lot of different instructors coming through the ranks, coaches, instructors, infield coordinators. Is there any one person that sticks out in your mind that really helped you and made you, blossom? That, or is it a couple guys or a group of guys or anybody just stick out in your mind?
Well, the number one guy, the guy who signed me, a big baseball man, I don't even know if he's still living now, Buzzy Keller, signed me to my first contract, and I guess he was a lifer in baseball. He said what was on his mind. he knew a lot about the game. He took a special interest in me because he signed me, and he really helped me to get along by myself, being away from home. Another guy was Joe Tanner, Lucy Goosey.
Yep.
Joe Tanner.
Yep.
He invented the Tanner tee, which every major league club has out there right now. It's a tee that they hit off in the batting cages or wherever you want to use it. Joe Tanner, Bill Fisher, another great baseball man. Thrift, a guy who, after coming to Florida, after trying out in Kansas City, I was trying out there for him, and I was hitting, and I wasn't swinging the bat. He told me to swing the bat or get the hell out of the cage and go home. And I started to swing the bat, and again, he was another guy who influenced my career quite a bit. And there were a lot of other ones, but those guys.
Who's the guy that said swing the bat? You know? Who's that guy? Oh, Sid said that. Yeah, he's direct and to the point.
yeah. Most of the guys I dealt with were pretty direct. Buzzy Keller, he would say what was on his mind. Sid Thrift, Joe Tanner, one of the most fun guys that I ever worked with. He really worked with myself, Frank White, on fielding the ball, Freddie Patek. He also worked with hitting, base running. I mean, he was a guru. So I learned a lot from those guys. And again, coming from Stringtown, Oklahoma, where we didn't get a lot of coaching, it was a good thing that we didn't, because everything that I heard from them was fresh and it was correct.
Well, he was known to me, and I think you too, also as the bunting guru as well. He taught Tanner. Man, he put that thing right off the end of the bat.
Well, it was unorthodox. He did a lot of things that a lot of people didn't agree with, but they worked.
Mm-hmm.
If you listen to him and you applied the things that he tried to tell you or to teach you, you learned that. And again, it helped Frank White probably more than anybody defensively. I think he won 8 or 9 Gold Gloves. But the bunting thing, I still use it. I used it as a coach for the 30 years that I did it, and kids really they caught on to it, and it made bunting a lot easier for them. So a lot of the stuff that I taught was taught to me by those people that I named.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, you mentioned your old double play combo partner, Frank White, and the two of you, along with Ron Washington, were the 3 graduates from the Royals Academy who made it to the major leagues. Could you tell our audience about the Royals Academy? I don't think people really know or understand what went on there and how it got you guys to the majors.
Well, it was pretty much something where Mr. Kaufman, the owner of the Royals, had an idea of getting athletes and teaching them how to play baseball. Now, a lot of us had played baseball, but I don't guess we were good enough to be drafted or what, for whatever reason, I don't know. But he was a speed guy. You could run and you could throw. He felt like he could teach you how to play the game of baseball. And the academy was simply that. We were paid. When I started out, I was paid $100 a month. They gave us gloves and they gave us shoes, and they housed us at the baseball academy in Sarasota, Florida. And basically, they also offered us the opportunity to go to college if we wanted to, junior college, Manatee Junior College there. And basically, we worked out. If we went to school, we'd go, come back, get back on the field again, and our games consisted of we played college teams. A lot of the big universities, University of Miami, a lot of the teams would come down from the north, and we played the big college, big universities, and we usually were pretty successful against them.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was the academy was a very special thing. I know Frida fed us pretty darn well, huh? You all over in that cafeteria.
Oh yeah,
And,
She always gave us a cupcake or something on her birthday. She made us feel at home. She was all of our moms.
I loved Willis, our clubhouse guy.
Oh man, that's the name. Willis didn't play about his clubhouse stuff. He was a great guy, and he loved his job, and he took it seriously. So Willis was again one of those guys that influenced me, not on the baseball field, but just how he conducted himself and his job.
He helped me a lot, I know. And Willis, if he liked you, man, he liked you. If he didn't like you, he just okay, here's your uniform, see you later.
That was the time in this
that
world.
Was good though.
It was cut and dry. People told you what they felt back then. Wasn't no candy coating and anything like that. If they liked you, they told you. If they didn't like you, they would tell you that too. So I mean, it was just the way it was.
Yeah, we wore a little different hide back then. So
a little bit tougher and a thicker skin back then, no doubt about it.
Yeah. Well, you signed those papers, you were theirs.
Yeah, but I know UL. What year did you end up start coaching? Who was that with UL?
My last year as a player was '87. I went to camp with Cincinnati Reds, and that's when Pete Rose was coaching there, and Branch Rickey Jr. was the minor league farm director. He was also started out over in the Raw system. I started out with him over there also. But after my playing days, I took a year off. '88, '89. Buzzy Keller was with the Pirates. He called me and asked me if I wanted to manage in their system. So I went to rookie ball and managed up in Wayland, Ontario.
I'll be darned.
So that was my first year in '89.
And I know you got plenty of stories.
Well, yeah, it didn't quite work out there. They threw me out there and said, "Here, do it," and not a lot of help. I had to do reports on every player in the league that year, pitchers, catchers, infielders, all, and I had no idea. So I didn't last long at that job, to say the least. I think we finished it right about 500, and after that year, I went over to came back to the Royals. Hal McRae was managing at that time, and I went up to they call them the heroes of the game back then. Ex-players go up and play in games before regular, 15 played, and Hal asked me if I wanted to work, so I ended up working with the Royals for 7 years, worked in their system for 7 years.
Tell us a little bit about Hal McRae. Was he one tough guy?
Oh.
Hal McRae was probably one of the toughest people that I knew, simply because he came up through that Cincinnati Reds system with Perez and Rose and Griffey and all of those guys, and they were baseball people. They knew the game. He would do anything to get on base, and that meant if you threw inside, he didn't get out of the way. You had to hit him. If you could hit him, that was opportunity for him to steal a base or score a run or break up a double play. They looked for opportunities. If it was if he hit a single, it was a double until they told him it wasn't. And that's the way he played the game. And he also he tutored a lot of the kids that came up through the system a lot of times. He would educate you and help you out as much. Probably one of the better people at that time at helping other people get better.
So he actually educated George Brett on how to knock somebody out in the left field, turn into double play, I think.
Yeah, well, he educated him too good, because George would do that and he would hurt himself, so they told him to stop doing it.
Yeah, that's right. George hurt himself a lot. That's right. And,
don't hurt the superstar.
Yeah, but McRae, to me, he's a quiet leader, and you say, well, who's the leader? Who's the leader? Who's the leader? To me, it's always McRae, because he was quiet. And Mac, if he said something, you went, oh, Mac's talking.
Yeah.
What's Max? And you just turned your head. He didn't say it very much. And that was kind of like Whitey. Well, he didn't talk very much either. But when he said something, you turned your head.
Yeah.
And he said, better listen.
That was Mac for you, though. But he would do that. But George, he helped other people by the way he played the game too. I mean, he worked hard. He worked hard at being a good hitter. He worked hard at being a better third baseman. I mean, and back then teams stayed together longer. So, I mean, our main objective was to win ball games, and Whitey Herzog always told us he felt like he felt like we had the talent, and he always told us we were going to win, and we believed it. So, you know, that was how they did stuff back then. If they believed in you, they told you, and they made you believe more in yourself.
Hey, I'm going to ask you go ahead. I'm going to ask you all this before I forget this thing.
Here comes the question. I know which one's coming right now.
Yeah.
Go for it.
I'm going to ask you a personal question. Hey, did you ever swallow that damn toothpick on a slide or anything?
Well, Mark, if I had, I probably wouldn't be here talking to you right now. But no, I had collisions. I slid head first. I broke up double plays. Pitchers threw it, and they threw it, and I was considered a hot dog, and I guess I was. I mean, I was a little guy. I had to be that way to survive with all those big guys and all the Nolan Rhymes and the Jim Palmers. And there were some headhunters out there somewhat. I mean, back then it wasn't very far behind the years when Bob Gibson and Drysdale and those guys were. I mean, back then a lot of the black players said they had to learn to hit in their backs before they could hit in their feet because teams would throw it, and not just the black players, everybody. If you disrespect and you hit a home run, you stood and looked at it. The next guy was going to get hit, or you was going to get hit. There was the code back then that you did it this way, and that was it.
Exactly right. Exactly. Yeah. Well, Ozzie did it in good gesture, I tell everybody this too. I was blessed with great shortstops, and Freddie Patek was just a great guy and an outstanding shortstop, obviously, but he played 14 years. And I had Gary Templeton, super, probably the most athletic of all three, I'm going to say it, and then Ozzie. So I was blessed with those guys. But it's amazing when you've got that good middle infield, and you got AO out there in center, or Willie McGee on the other end in St. Louis. I mean, those guys track balls down and they move, and that's what you want out there, especially when you're pitching, man. You see those guys, get that first jump off that bat. It's pretty impressive, very impressive.
You started off obviously breaking in slowly with the Royals. I guess the term they use in baseball is kind of like a utility guy, middle infield guy. But around 1979, Freddie Patek, who Country just brought up, was starting to slow down, and you were starting to ascend. How was that in the clubhouse? Were the players all behind that switch, to make the change, so to speak? Because it's obviously the benefits were in 1980, but how did that happen? Was it true professionalism, or was there any bumps in the road?
Freddie Patek was a person who he never really got me out and tried to work me on anything, but he was always very cordial with me. He was my friend. I learned a lot from watching the way he did things, and he would give me some suggestions occasionally, but it was just a time when he was becoming a free agency, and the thing about free agency back then, when you got to a certain amount of money and they thought that they could pay someone less money that could do possibly the same job, you were expendable. And he became a free agent at the end of that year, and that's when I took over in 1980. But it wasn't like I took his job or anything. It was a lot of other things involved in it. And I just saw Freddie, of course, when Mark and I went up to Kansas City to this deal, and I saw Freddie, and same guy. The only difference was he didn't have his cowboy boots on. He had some tennis shoes on. That's the first time I'd ever seen him without cowboy boots on.
True professional.
Freddie and I are friends, and we've always been that way, and we probably will be that way until we both are gone.
That's fantastic.
Mark, you have to ask him the question about the Brad home run on the Pine Tar. Go ahead and ask him that one.
I do. I was kind of holding that one back, but you were on base when George hit the home run, and I actually was in the building as a fan. Actually rooting for you guys, to believe it or not, because I'm not a Yankee fan, even though I'm a New Yorker. And all heck broke loose. I'm trying to clean it up, keep it clean. Tell us about what was going on there, what was because all I remember is him come running out of the dugout, and it just looked like a melee was going to go happen. Bring us back to that day back in 1983.
Well, it kind of all stems from George Brett and the Pine Tor bat. I mean, George put Pine Tor was a big thing back then. George put Pine Tor on his bat, and it was usually legal right to the label on the bat, the Louisville Slugger. And what he did, he hit without gloves on. So when he would stand there and get a signal, he had Pine Tor in his hand. He'd reach down and grab the barrel of the bat. And that's how the Pine Tor would get past the label there. So Billy Martin had griped about it several times before, and he just kind of left it alone. He was going to wait until George did something to hurt him before he really pushed the issue. So that night, I forget the score, but I came up. We were down 1 run, about middle ways through the game. 2 outs. Goose Gossage pitching. I probably never had gotten a hit off him before. Anyway, I chopped one. It's probably true. Probably true. I mean, he had that hat down over his eyes. You didn't know where the heck he was going to throw the ball.
He's a scary guy.
Right. Yeah, but anyway, I chopped one up the middle. Willie Randolph went over backhanded, and my speed got me the base hit. 2 pitches later, George hit one in the upper deck. I ran around the bases. I have a picture of me jumping up in the air on my way down, hitting the home plate. And the bat boy is picking up the bat, looking over his shoulder at Billy Martin coming out of the dugout. So Billy actually was out of the dugout before George came around the bases.
No way.
He came out. Yeah, he was out of it. He was on his way to home plate. Anyway, we have hands and go to the dugout, and he's with the umpire. We got the umpire, and the umpire picks the bat up. He lays it across the plate, and like I said, George never put the Pine Tor down there, but Wade grabbed the bat a lot of times with his hand. Pine Tor was put onto the barrel. Anyway, the umpire measured the bat on the plate, and he saw that it was the rule, and he called George out, and that's when George ran out of the dugout. They started to argue. The umpire grabbed George around the neck. John Wappin trying to get him off of George. Gaylord Perry, who was with us at the time, grabbed the bat, ran up the tunnel. The police ran up the tunnel after him. They finally caught him up there somewhere and got the bat. And it ended up
Commissioner's office.
The umpires looked at it, and they decided that, it wasn't intentional or whatever, however it decided. And it ended up George doing a commercial about FedEx or something like that, where they delivered the bat back to him. So it was crazy. It was crazy. That was one of the craziest nights of my life. Anyway, the end of the story is that we had to come back. They
in August
protested that game. We had to come back and play the last 2 or 3 innings. Wow. Anyway, we play those innings. We win the game. We're on the way to the airport, and somebody throws a rock and it hits the front of the window and tried to run us off the bridge going across some water. So we wasn't safe until we got out of town.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you that was one of the biggest stories in New York that year. I mean, they got people up to like a fever pitch about the whole thing. I remember when you guys came back to play that game because the Yankees had guys all out of position. I think Guidry was in center field.
Yeah, that was Billy Martin trying to cross the umpires up. He did a lot of stuff up that day just to make sure that they knew what the heck he was talking about, and just to mess with people. That's Billy Martin.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I remember that Greg Nettles had told Billy about the bat like weeks before, and Billy said, let's keep it under our hat when we're going to need it. Yeah. And when I was there, I swear to you, I knew that George was going to hit that home run because he owned Goose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you guys feel that way too?
Well, I didn't know how George hit Goose, but I knew Billy Martin was waiting for a time to when George hurt him, he was waiting for a time to go told the umpires and tell them that was illegal, and we knew it was coming.
Oh, so you knew it was coming.
We knew what he was waiting for, because he had argued with umpires about George getting hits or whatever, or about the pine tar being below the Louisville Slugger emblem on the bat or something. So we knew that he was aware, and he wanted to do something about that situation.
Now, how did your manager Dick Hauser react to the whole thing?
Well, I don't really know. I mean, he ran out and he argued, and I mean, it was a big argument. I think the game ended right at that point, right there, and I mean, it was just crazy. I don't really know how he reacted, how he felt about it, but it was something that something that I'll never remember. And we had Gaylord Terry printed up T-shirts. I still have one right now. Pine tar game. He had the lineups of both teams and what they did in that game, and so it's something that I'll always remember.
It's one of the most memorable red games from a regular season ever.
The only other time that I ever saw a home run, taken away was Ted Simmons over in St. Louis, and you all knows this, but in the minor leagues and in the major leagues, sometimes they had the big bone there, and guys had boned their bat, right? You all?
Hit the bone and bone it, yep. And we also would get little buildings, put little lines, and it was a way to grip the bat and boning. I don't know if that was illegal or not. I mean, everybody had one in their locker room. It just made the wood solid.
Harder, But what Simmons did was, the wider the grain, the better the grain in the bat. And what Simmons used to do is you break a Coke bottle and you groove the barrel, a little bit.
Yeah.
And
that's what.
Well, the catchers were, catching onto this bat, and they were waiting for a time when he was going to, whack one, because, Teddy was a damn good hitter. There's no doubt about that. I mean,
he didn't need that help. He was a good hitter.
He didn't need that, because if you hit a ball on a line drive and it went to a second baseman and it was grooves, it knuckled a lot sometimes. It'd almost kill you.
Oh, would it? I didn't know that.
I mean, it's like a golf club sometimes, because they're grooved. It's the same thing, but those baseball reacts a lot differently than a golf ball. But Teddy hit the home run. Sure enough, the catcher was already showing the umpire by the time he got third. Hey, look at this! Oh, that's not a home run, And Teddy didn't say a word. He knew he screwed up. So he got that home run, that run taken away, and Teddy's one of the few guys that I know was a switch hitter that he got 100 hits from both sides of the plate, and Garrett Templeton was the same way. He got 100 plus from each side. I mean, that's very, very impressive. Who did?
Yeah, Willie Wilson did that too.
Man, that's just amazing. I mean,
Willie Wilson hit 230 hits that one year.
Yeah, he had 100 from both sides. I mean, that's solid.
That's actually really hard to do, considering you get a lot less at bats from the right-handed side of the plate.
Yeah.
So let's talk about 1980, the year the Royals finally get over the hump, win the pennant, and go to the World Series. What's some of your most fond memories of that year?
Oh, y'all?
Was it that year? That was the year, wasn't it?
1980, when you guys faced the Phillies in the series.
Yeah, and I remember it too. That was great that George did that, but I hit second that year behind Willie Wilson and in front of George Brett, and boy, was that fun. I mean, the fastest guy in the world, probably the best hitter in the league, and I'm hitting between them, so I got to hit.
I bet you did.
And there was a lot of other great things. I mean, we had Quisenberry and Leonard and all those guys. I mean, Brewer, Splitoff. We had a great team. We had depth. We had speed. We were gap to gap. I mean, we played great defense. We ran. We kept pressure on guys. I mean, and that's the kind of baseball the Royals used the last couple of years to get in the World Series and to win the World Series. They never knew their identity until they started to do those things, and that was our identity. I mean, we kept pressure on teams. We played good defense. Quiz would come in late. We'd turn double plays for him. I mean, we had real good players off the bench: Jamie Quirk, Dave Chalk. I mean, we had it all.
How sweet was it to finally get over the hump and after 3 times in a row getting knocked out in the ALCS by the Evil Empire, finally beating them and sweeping them in 1980?
Well, I wasn't there during those times. I came up there into 87 to give Freddie a break, and that was the year I think they won 103, 105, something like that. And I came up the end of the year. Of course, I didn't come up early enough to get in the playoffs, but being my first year as a starter, that was great. And I think pretty much our World Series was probably beating the Yankees because they had knocked us out those other years before that time. And what hurt us, I think, was we swept them, and we had to stay in New York until the Phillies and the Astros finished their series out. So we didn't really have a celebration in Kansas City until after until we got to the World Series. But
sure.
That was a great time in our lives. I'll never forget.
Yeah.
Well, so tell me a little bit about when you two guys coached together.
Well, it was 90. It was 90. It was 90, wasn't it?
Oh man, I cannot remember, but it was with the Dodgers, and we were in San Antonio.
Yeah,
San Antonio Double A, somewhere in there, but that was a very trying year for us. We had some marginal type guys we had to put together, and sometimes that's hard to do. And you're trying to put the hitters out on the field, you're trying to put the pitchers out on the field, you're trying to get them to catch the ball, and then UL and we knew each other pretty well because we played together, and we were glad we were hooked up. And then we had cock of the walk Rick Burleson with us, so we had to put up with Rick for a little bit. And
so you guys had to carry Rick Burleson, huh? You had to carry the rooster.
Yeah. Well, it was. We didn't have a very good team. We didn't have a lot of prospects on that team. And the Dodgers had just taken over new ownership, new people had bought the organization. We had some guys that were rovers that were really hard to deal with. We had Rick Burleson as probably a good guy, but not very personality-wise, not very, he just was different kind of a guy. And
you're being very politically correct here.
I think that year made me a better coach, though. I mean, you're gonna coach with, just like you play with players you don't like, you still have to play with them. Just like with coaches, sometimes you don't like them, you have to work with them. But I think it made me a better coach overall because I had to deal with
adversity,
not having a good club, and dealing with Rick, and again. He did it the way he knew how to do it, but it was just really hard for his coaches to deal with, So, again, I think it made me a better coach, but it was a very trying year that year.
Well, you've had a great life with baseball, UL, and I know your family is they're wonderful, and you're very close to your family. You have 5 grandchildren now, is it?
5 grandkids, 3.
Yeah. So your hands are full of being a grandpa. So
well, when you called, I was outside putting up a deal for the 4th of July. I got an above ground pool, and we're getting ready for the 4th of July. I got firecrackers and it was pretty much everything I do is for the grandkids and the wife or whatever. No, I mean, been away from them. I'm trying to make up for it, but
yeah. Well, I tell you what, you be sure and read that book I gave you because you'll laugh, when you get around to it now. I got that book out on the 8th Day God Made Baseball. But, UL, it's been so enjoyable just to talk to you and hear a few more, secrets about UL Washington. And, UL, I'm going to close this thing out. I'm going to let you get back to that pool out there. In the 4th, but thanks for we so much appreciate you coming on and taking your time away from your family for a little bit, and it's been such a fun interview just to listen to some of the things that bring back good memories. It really does. But here's the way I close this out, UL. I say throw peas at the knees, no pies in the eye, no wall balls, and you'll be just fine.
Take care, everybody.
You just stay off of those bulls, all right?
Oh yeah, I am staying away from bulls. You better believe it.
That's a story for another time, folks.
Oh yeah.